Hey guys, it's Christian from Emotions in Wine. So the part 2 continues with the narration, and now finally we enter in the deep heart of Dalmatia. If you missed part 1, link below, I recommend you because this is really two parts that must go together. The first was Istria, Kvarner, and north of Dalmatia. So better to watch the other first. Heading south, of course, you have also all these incredible towns and cities. Šibenik, Primošten, on this small peninsula on the sea, and then split with a long history from the Roman days. So there is a lot to see here, much more and more diverse also than Istria. And near Split, there is another historic point. Zinfandel of Primitivo, the original was Tribidrag, or proper name Crljena Kaštelanski. So near Split, in that area was born, and then eventually moved to Italy and then to America. So another historic key point of Dalmatia. Mostly small sub-regions, small wineries also here, not many famous, so here not much to suggest. If you are in that area, you need to be a bit adventurous, but you can find. Also on the islands near Split, important. So Šolta, the less famous of the islands there, is home to Dobričić. There is a very little production. Dobričić is one of the two parents of Plavasmali, and is a very interesting red. So that is a sort of variety from Šolta. Then you have Brač, Hvar, the other two bigger islands. There are the similar grapes to the other regions, not like Šolta that is more specific. So you have mostly Plavac, Pošip, and just tiny productions of some local varieties. Worth to mention, indeed, Stina in Brač, the most representative winery, quite big there, doing great Plavac, Pošip, very noticeable, even some Vukava, which we will mention soon, white. In Hvar, I would mention Hvar Hills as an interesting winery to visit eventually. Focus also more on these grapes and a couple of international. And then a special mention is deserved to Vis. So where Vugava, this white grape, is from and is mostly made there. Vis is special. It was a military base, so it was not accessible until recently. Tourism grew in the last 10-20 years, so also more visibility for the wine. It's quite different. It's more low altitudes and sandy, so the particularity of this Vugava grape, and then the Plavasmali more delicate and elegant with these sandy soils, so it's out of the box compared to the neighboring islands and subregions. So worth to consider. Here, Wislander and Lipanovic are the two main addresses. Wislander bigger, they make several single vineyards, Plavasmali, very interesting. And Lipanovic, the winery in the bunker, so the military bunker used for the winery, so something special if you are in this. Then we reach the real heart of Dalmatia, Pelješac Peninsula and Korčula Island, which is the start of the southern part. Of course, there is the inner behind that is less relevant. There are some couple of local varieties only specific to there, red and white. Couple of interesting wineries to consider if you are there, but most probably you will be on the coast, even tough to taste them. If you are in Makarska Riviera, you have more chances to try some of these from the inner part that is higher, inner, behind the mountains, so it's interesting, a bit cooler at night time. But Korčula, the home of Grk and Pošip, both born there, naturally, as I was hinting before. So naturally with high acidity, thriving in that kind of climate. It's incredible with the rocky soil, but some part sandy for Grk, clayey in the middle of the island for Pošip. So different characteristics, different characters. Still majority very tiny wineries, but some more noticeable with incredible levels of quality. So when you try a Grk from Bire or a Pošip from Luka Krajančić, you really get what I mean. Of course, these are richer wines, more complex, but they have vibrancy, minerality, acidity, so they can even age incredibly. So this is defying all the rules in a way and making you understand why I still consider this the heart more than Cultivo, which is indeed impressive, surprising with that longevity wines. But here there is something more, even in the soul concept of the wine. Besides the long history, 2000 years or so, the Greek brought the grapes there apparently. So history for the country, because Poship was the first white appellation in the 60s also, just a bit afterwards, Dingace Postup, soon to be seen, and then some heritage of old vines on the steep slopes. It was all planted, Cortula, in the old days. Then after Phylloxera, they changed to other farmings. So that's why nowadays productions are relatively limited. But Luca Krajančić defied really all the rules. I tasted in a preview. It will be released next year for his 30th anniversary. Is a Poship from 2017, aged 10 years, mostly in American cask. So even that surprising. Then Bottle Refiner in the last few years will be released in 2027, coming from old vines on clay, terra rossa, because even there is a bit. So it's close to the coast, so going up to the main valley where the Poship is farmed, but on terra rossa, which should give more structure, but acidity, minerality, salty from the sea, the old vines, an incredible wine, 10 years old, and that can age a lot more. It will be released at 10 years of age. So imagine, even define the fact that on the clay should be richer and less for longevity. So this is the clear example with American cask, but made by the French tonnellerie. And this wine is really one of the most incredible I had in recent years, really to compare to some top Burgundy. So it's really mind-blowing. So you understand why I still believe that this has something more to give, compared even to the volcanic soils of Cultivo. It's really the wonder of Mediterranean terroirs that in some cases give incredible results in every mean, even if you don't expect that to be possible. So closing up Cortula, unfortunately, Luca Krajančić cannot be visited. He's not open for. You need to know him to get to enter his house, his cellar. There are many micro, as hinted, in Poship area. You can even walk in, but some better to book in advance to make sure that they are there. While for Gerk area, which is in Lombarda near Cortula town, so the more populated area also of tourists, that is much more organized. So Bire is always open, well organized, beautiful garden. They explain you, so you can learn a lot there, and you can try almost everything. Sabulum is another interesting with a beautiful spot almost on the beach, and interesting wine and interesting even information you can get. And then some others you can also walk in, but you need to dig a bit. But you have more options, well organized. To conclude, Peljeshev, of course. So the two first appellations from the 60s, Dingac and Postup, these are the two locations where only Plavatsmali grape is allowed, only Albarello, so Bush. So these are the two top spots for the Plavatsmali grape. Here there is much more, even the incredible scenery, the landscape, the steep slopes, vineyards. So the heroic farming also, giving something more. The triple insolation, the sun, the reflected from the sea, and the rocks holding all limestone rock, very little topsoil. So these are the most incredible spots. Today with the warmer and those high alcoholic wines getting a bit more problematic in some cases for the too much bold and rich structure. Some other locations in the peninsula are becoming attractive lately. to mention for sure Milos, their Stagnum wine, the top Plavasmali, also on very steep, rocky, high altitude, but retaining more freshness, is a bit higher than Dingac or Postup, so that can be for the future a good perspective. It's already a super red from the peninsula, very expensive, but staying in Dingac or Postup, where the tradition, the history also is more relevant. The vines are mostly very old, and the micro wineries, real farmers, even more the real concept of artisanal winemaking. In fact, that is the issue, to visit them. Majority, Kirija or Bura, the two probably most famous of the tiny ones, you cannot visit them. That is a pity. You can visit some more upcoming, younger, who are more marketing focused, or Matushko, the biggest, quite commercial, but still delivering quality. So that for sure is an address for a visit. You can walk in. Anticevic, one of our friends there. We've made a video about him. He's open to visit. He's an upcomer, so that is interesting. Even less in Postup, because Postup is very micro, it's very small acreage, a bit different from Dingac for inclination mostly, and slightly also the composition of the soil. They're really tiny wineries. The only one that I can mention is our friend also, as we spoke in that video, Sibilic. They have in Orebic, so the main village there on the coast, a small wine bar, so you can go in the evenings to visit them and discover a bit their wines. So these are the beauties of this place. Incredible wines, Postup tendentially slightly more elegant, so a bit less rich and powerful than Dingac. But even in Dingac, modern winemaking helps. They make a bit shorter macerations, so they extract a bit less. So somebody is doing a bit earlier harvest to keep a bit more acidity. So there are different combinations to keep the wines more and more interesting and not too heavy. But of course, here structure is the main ingredient. So you are having a full picture of the coast. I gave you a lot of names. I skip other details about towns or restaurants because otherwise it would have been too much. It's a big dive. You have a lot to digest. Corroborated also by more footage from previous trips or tastings. So it's a great picture for every traveler to the coast of Croatia, for everyone who is into these wines and have the chance to find them. Some are available. The export is very micro for Croatian wine, but of course in America, in some main European cities, you can find something. In Europe, you can even ship from a couple of websites, so that helps. So there is a chance to find, even out of Croatia, some of these wines. Of course, not the very micro wineries, top-notch, that I mentioned. Kraj and Cicebire, talking about Korčula, are the two main, even as size of the winery, so you can find them somewhere around the planet, but majority are very localized. So I hope you enjoyed. You can go much more in detail with the tasting or the visits we did with the other videos, links all below. Support us as much as possible. Subscribe if you didn't yet to have more of this. Help us to grow, like, and see you next time. Salute!